Something that really makes an RPG game engaging and fun is leveling up your character. In today's video we'll take a look on how to create a simple leveling up system in Unreal Engine 4, including UI elements. So the first thing that we'll need to do is to go in our player's character. In that case this is going to be for me the third person character. And here on my screen you'll be able to see a lot of blueprints. And these are basically the blueprints that we set up in the last episode, in which we created a simple quest system. So this is going to be the system that is going to reward our player with experience, but of course you can have something else as killing monsters or selling items or whatever you want to have. But if you want to learn how to create this system, go on and click on the card in the top right corner to learn that. But now let's begin creating the experience system. So the first thing that we'll need to make sure that we have is a variable that will store the current experience. So actually I can even name this to current experience, exp, the short form for experience. And the first thing that we'll have to do is add a new custom event that will check every 0.01 seconds if we can level up or not. So to do that we are going to go here and type add custom event, and I'm going to call this check experience. And as I said, we are going to fire this custom event every 0.01 seconds. So let's say that we killed an enemy and we got 10 experience. If the needed experience for the next level is 5 and we have 0, but we just got 10, that means that we surpassed the amount that we need for the next level. And that means that the next time this event will fire, we are going to level up. But in order to see if that happened or not, so if the conditions are true, we'll need to fire this event, which we're going to set up a little bit later. First, let's see how we can fire this every 0.01 seconds. To do that, we are going to go on event begin play and set a timer by function name. We are going to check looping and the time 0.01 seconds, and even though here it says function name, custom events are also some kinds of functions. Basically the difference is that custom events don't allow latent nodes such as delays and timelines, but custom events do. Okay, so what we'll have to do here is to do a branch. And we'll have to check if our current experience is higher than the needed experience for the next level. But currently we don't have a variable for that. So we're going to create a new variable, and I'm going to name this, let's say, needed experience for next level. This is also going to be an integer, and we will need to set the default value for this. So for the first level, let's say we want to have 100 experience. So if current experience is higher or equal to this integer, we are going to level up. So what we'll have to do now is that we will need to reset the experience. But actually we don't want to completely reset it. If we are going to go back to that scenario that I just came up with, so we are going to earn 10 experience and the needed experience for the next level is 5, that means that we are going to have 5 extra experience, but we don't want to reset that to be 0. We want to subtract from the current experience the needed experience, so we are still going to have that 5 experience. So current experience, integer minus integer, needed experience for next level, and we are going to set the current experience to be this subtraction. And then we are going to need to increase our level, but currently we don't have a variable which is going to represent that. So let's create it, a new variable, a new integer for me, and I'm going to call this current level. So we're going to get current level, and we will want to add 1 to this. So if our current level is 1 and we just leveled up, we want this to be 2. In order to do that, we are going to get an increment node, which is basically getting a value, adding 1 to it, and then setting it back. So basically 1 plus 1 equal 2, 2 plus 1 equal 3, and so on. Okay, and now our needed experience for next level is still 100, but we want to increase it a little bit because we don't want the player to need to take the same amount of experience, to gather the same amount of experience for the next level up. So here we are going to come up with a small formula something that you can make custom. So if you have something custom, you can use that, but I'm going to use mine. So what I'm going to do is to get my current level, and I'm going to multiply this with a float. This float is going to be 70, and then I'm going to divide this with another float, that being 2.3. Then I'm going to round this. I'm going to get my needed experience for next level, and I'm going to add this integer to the round node. And then I'm going to plug this in the set node. So basically, let's say that this is 100 and this is going to be equal to 50. We are going to add 150, and then we're going to set it to be 150 for the next level. Okay, so this is a small formula I wanted to use for my system. So now that we got everything down in our blueprint, that means that here somewhere at the end the player is going to level up, but that means that his stats will need to grow as well. So usually in RPG, stats such as health, stamina, inventory capacity or whatever are going to grow, are going to get bigger, and so that's what we are going to do. We're going to create a new custom event, so add custom event, and I'm going to call this on level up. So this is going to be called whenever our player is going to level up, and here at the end we'll need to call it. So call on level up, and I'm going to create some variables. So the first one is going to be health, so the second one is going to be walk speed, and let's say the third one is going to be strength. And then again I'm going to come up with a formula that is going to increase this based on the current level and maybe the needed experience for the next level. But first I'm going to set all of these in here, not yet the values though. Okay, and compile. And after we compile, we can set the default values, because usually strength and health, so the strength variable and health variable should have a default value. Usually health is 100. Let's set the walk speed to be 600, which is the default from the character movement. And then the strength, let's set this to be 50. And now, as I said, we are going to use another formula to increase these numbers. So in order to create this formula, I'm going to drag in here some nodes, and then I'm going to collapse those to a macro. So just follow what I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to explain exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to get an integer to float, then I'm going to divide this float by another float, and then I'm going to get an integer multiplied by a float and plug this in the second pin, and then I'm going to truncate this, and then I'm going to add an integer plus integer. Okay, this is going to go in the first node or the second one, whichever you want. And now let's collapse this to a macro. I'm going to call this stats level up macro, and now let's get into it. And in here we are going to need to create some new pins. So the first pin is going to be this one. I'm going to call this current stats. Okay, and this pin is going to go in this node right here as well. Then I'm going to promote this to a pin, and I'm going to call this current level. And then the third pin is going to be this float here, and I'm going to call this current level multiplier. Okay, and I think we are done with this. So I'm going to compile. And we are also going to need an output. So the output is going to be an integer, and I'm going to leave this as return value. So in current stats, we are going to drag for each one the corresponding variable. So for health, that is going to be health. Current level is self-explanatory. And for current level multiplier, I'm going to set this to be 50. And now we can just copy these and paste it in here. The only thing that we are going to need to change is the current stats variable. So for walk speed, I'm going to get a walk speed variable, and for strength, I'm going to get a strength variable. Okay, now one thing that we can do here to actually use one of these variables is to get the character movement and set max walk speed based on the walk speed. So we are going to get here a reference and we are going to set this. Okay, so basically this is just some random math that we are going to use to increase every time the health, the walk speed and strength stats. Okay, and I believe now we are almost done with the third person character. The only thing we'll have to do is to use some nodes in here and create the UI elements. So before working again in our third person character, we are going to create a new user interface and then go to widget blueprint. Now I'm going to call this experience bar underline HUD. Now I'm going to get in here and I'm going to drag a text, and this is going to represent the level. Going to set the justification to be align text center. Okay, and then I'm going to get here a progress bar. Okay, I'm going to resize this a little bit, and I'm also going to stylize it. So for both background image and fill image, I'm going to get here a white texture. Okay. And what I can also do is to set this tint to be a gray color, and then the fill color and opacity to be white. Okay, we can also make this longer, and we can try to see if the percent is working or not. Now it's working just fine. You can also set the bar fill type to be right to left, fill from center, top to bottom, or bottom to top, however you'd like it. Okay, for the text block, we are going to need to bind the text. So just create a binding, and bindings are basically, we are going to change the text, so whatever this text says based on a variable, then that variable is going to be the current level from our third person character. And to access that, we are going to cast to third person character. The object is going to be get player character, and then we are going to get current level. And just plug this in the return value, and it is going to convert it into a text automatically. And then in event graph, we are going to create a new custom event. So add custom event, and I'm going to call this progress bar update. So what this is going to do is to update the percent that our progress bar has based on the experience that our player currently has. So I'm going to set the percent back to 0, and in order to update this progress bar smoothly and to make sure that it's going to update every time our player is going to have more experience or less, or it has a new level, we are going to need to fire this pretty often. So in order to do that, we are going to use once again a timer by function name. So add timer, so timer by function name. Okay, the function name is going to be progress bar update looping 0.01. Now we are going to see how to update this smoothly, so it's going to have a smooth transition from 0 to 1, and every time the player has a new level. So as you might know, in order to smoothly transition between two values, we are going to need to use interpolation nodes. In our case, we are going to use finterp2. So we are going to need to set the percent of our progress bar based on the finterpolation2 node. So we are going to get our progress bar, set percent, and in percent the return value. But currently we don't know what is our current value, what is the target value, delta time and interpolation speed. So we'll need to set those up. So the current is always going to be the progress bar current percent. So get percent. Because let's say we want to get from percent 0.4 to 1, we always want to update from the current percent to the target. If we would have here 0.4 and then the target would be 1, our f-interpolate node will get stuck because 0.4 is never going to update. Meanwhile, using the percent and then setting it is going to smoothly update it from 0.4, so let's say 0.03, 0.06, and so on until it gets close to 1 or whatever value we will want. Okay, the delta time is going to be the get world delta seconds, and the interpolation speed is a value that you will need to choose. I'm going to choose 2 for my f-interp2 node. We don't know the target and we need to see how we are going to set it. So the target is always going to be based on our experience and the experience that we need for the next level. And let's think about it like this. The progress bar only takes values from 0 to 1. And we need to see what is our current experience as a target, but usually our current experience is going to exceed 1. So we will need to divide that by a number to get a number between 0 and 1. And the best number to do that by is the experience needed for the next level. So let's say our current experience is 5 and the experience until the next level is 10. We will need to divide 5 by 10 and that is going to be 0.5. And that is going to be a value that our percent bar is going to accept. So we are going to cast to third person character and then once again get player character. We are going to get current experience and then we are going to get experience needed for next level. Then we are going to convert this to floats, so integer to float, and the same thing goes for the other one. And then we are going to divide this. So let's say, once again, another example, if our current XP is 380 and the needed experience is, let's say, 600, that means that this is somewhere about 1 divided by 3. Or actually no, 2 divided by 3. And that would mean that the percent is going to be somewhere about 0.6, 0.5, something around there. So now that we have this done, our progress bar is going to update in runtime. But sometimes we will need to revert this to be back to 0 once we are going to level up, because if our current experience is going to be, let's say, 800 and the experience needed for the next level is 1000, then we would have a percent of 0.8. But if we would complete a quest that would give us 400 experience, our progress bar is not going to go all the way to 1000, the needed experience, and then it's going to go from 0 to 400. It is going to go directly from 800 to 400, so it would go the reversed way instead of forward as it should be intended. So what we have to do is to go in our event begin play in the third person character, and when we are going to create our main HUD, which contains all of our widgets, or actually it should contain, let's create that one real quick. So experience bar, position 0 and 0, and set the size so it fits the entire screen. Okay, so when we're going to create our main HUD and promote it to a variable, we also want to get from the main HUD get experience bar underline HUD, and I'm going to promote this to a variable experience bar HUD. Okay, and now we are going to have a reference to that exact widget. So we'll have to go to our check experience function, and what we'll do is to get our experience bar HUD and get percent. Actually, first we need to get the progress bar, and then we're going to get the percent from this one. So get percent, and we need to check if this is higher or equal than 1. And if that is true, we will want to fire this piece of blueprint. But instead of having another branch in here, we are going to have an AND boolean. So if both current experience is higher than needed experience for the next level, and the percent is going to be higher or equal to 1, we are going to run this piece of script. But this is not really going to help us, just checking this. What we have to do is to get once again the experience bar HUD, get progress bar, and then we'll need to set the percent to 0. Okay, so let me explain. If we're going to go back to our experience bar, okay, so this bar is intended to go from left to right. But let's say that our current experience divided by the needed experience is somewhere around here. And we just completed a quest that would give us experience that we are going to get to the next level, but we are also going to have about this much as well. If we would not have this piece of script right here, with the checking and setting the percent back to 0, our progress bar is going to go from, let's say, 0.8 directly back to 0.2 instead of going full. So instead of being 1 and then setting it back to 0 and to 0.2, it will go from 0.8 to 0.2. So let's check if this is working or not. Here I'm going to have the quest system, I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to get this cube, and then I'm going to give it back to this guy. As you can see in the bottom left corner, I'm going to now have level 1 and some experience as well. And if I'm going to take this quest and I'm going to accept it and give this guy the cube, a lot of levels are going to, we are going to get a lot of levels because the experience is high. And also, as you can see, my max walk speed is a little bit higher. So one thing that we could do to test this better is to go here to the max walk speed and current level multiplier, set this to 1, and now get this cube after we accept the quest. So accept it, get it, and now as you can see, our maximum walk speed is a lot more higher. So this is why we are also going to have here a multiplier for the division. And so this is pretty much everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to stay up to tune for new videos. I'm working on some really cool ideas for content this year, and that includes some brand new Blueprint Unreal tutorials and more. So if you want to learn more things like in this video, make sure to subscribe. And also if you'd like to support me, you can now do that over on Patreon. That being said, thanks for watching, and I'm going to catch you in the next one.